Do you take showers daily and change clothes as often as you used to? Just a quick disclaimer, these are my views. They don't really represent the views of my employer. Each company is different, each team is different. This is just my experience based on the last 5 months. Aniket asked me, is it exactly like the picture, but you have a little table to raise your laptop? No, so it's nothing like the picture. Can you travel anywhere without discomfort? So I like the remote part of things does mean that I can travel. I can actually move around. Like for example, right now I'm in Delhi. This is not my usual place. I usually live in Bangalore. But the fact that I can stay here and I can work from here is a great plus. I wouldn't say it's without any discomfort because it's really difficult to get into the zone of working. So especially if you're traveling a lot, if you're going to multiple places. So the digital nomad trend of just like hopping around, it doesn't work for me. Murad Javi, excellent guy, you should follow him. How does your company manage tasks? How do you communicate? My team follows GitHub projects, so we put our tasks there and then we kind of decide what we want in the next release and then pick tasks, and then when we're done, we release that. How do you communicate mostly? So a lot of video calls and Slack, and then GitHub issues. Preeti asked, what is your advice for people who want to start working remotely? Alright, so let me try to deconstruct this. There are two parts to this. The first one is your own part. Do you want to work remotely? Does it suit your personality? Not everyone likes to work like from far away. Some people like being in the office. This is so tricky because unless you try it, you'll actually never know. Ask your current employer to let you work from home for a while or be away for 2 weeks while you're still working. So it's kind of like you're like not in the office, but you're also not on vacation. And then find out for yourself. And the other part of this is, where do you even find a job that lets you work remotely? The only problem I had while switching to a remote job was finding a company that's okay with the time difference. I live in this part of the world and a lot of companies are in that part of the world, and the time difference kind of scares people away. It does take time to find a company that is truly remote. Sriram asked me two questions. The first one is, how long does your work time overlap with your teammates? Do you think it's important? How long is a very tricky question. So, like for example, right now it's 1 in the night for it's 1 in the night for some of my teammates, while it's like 9 something over here. I think overlap is really important. Like you need like some part of overlap every day, so that you can discuss stuff, you can meet if you want, you can code review, all of those things. Like it's the collaboration part of things. The interesting part is you don't need 8 hours of overlap. Like for example, in my case, I have like 2 hours of overlap, 2 to 3 hours, and that's perfectly fine. The second part of the question is, how do you manage when you get stuck with something or require a team discussion to take a decision and your team isn't available until the next day? So this is something that, whoa, this guy doesn't like me. He's just lurking around. Okay, sorry. How do you manage when the team isn't available till the next day? So this is an interesting question and something we've talked about a lot internally, and it kind of has two answers. The first one is you need some overlap, right? So the 2 hours that I get on most days helps. But the second one, which is more important, at least from my side, is we kind of break down what each person has to do in a team, and like for a longer period of time, like 1 or 2 weeks, and then let them be, right? Let them finish off the work. You have the freedom or you have the flexibility to do your work in your own way, and but just keep pushing stuff to GitHub, right? Or keep pushing your idea. So for example, if I'm working on something that I'm not exactly sure how to do, like I'll make a pull request, I'll write down this is how I want to approach this task, and by the next day everyone would have looked at it, they would have given their thoughts, and then it's just about typing the code. There's this extra element of not trying to make decisions on the spot. right? Everyone has time to read the thing, think over it, try it out if they have to, and then make a decision. Even though decision making might be slightly slower, but we're making the right decisions, which I think is more important. Okay, another question from BD. Do you like working from co-working spaces, cafes, home, garden, and why? So this might be like an unpopular opinion, but work doesn't really happen in the office. Right. So there's like there's a lot of distraction. So there's a lot of distraction, there's a lot of meetings, right? Like it's the setting which basically promotes collaboration, right? And that's something that people say but they don't mean. I really do like working from co-working spaces. This is like a co-working space that I'm at. I'm not a fan of working from home because it kind of ruins my productivity. It's really hard to get stuff done from home. Cafes are good, co-working spaces are good. Alright, so multiple people ask me this one question. How do you deal with loneliness? This is an interesting question. I was a little scared before going into full-time remote. Everyone needs some people around. And that's why co-working spaces are great because I get to meet people, I get to hang out with them. I think the difference there is the overlap between your co-workers and your friends that you hang out with doesn't have to be 100%. Right? You can have individual sets that overlap a little. I think that's useful. That being said, I know people who need a lot more people around them to hang out with every day. Right? For them, it might not work. I'm an outright introvert, so it kind of works for me. Jitendra asks, do you work for more hours than you used to do at an office job? No, I actually work a lot lesser hours. But then to be honest, I wasn't spending all my hours working at my office job either, right? So it's probably the number of hours working is the exact same, but I don't have to spend as many hours in the office to get the same amount of work done. Rishabh said, what I have found that sometimes the communication gap is there and requirement is not 100% clear if you're working remotely. I think one thing that's changed for me is I communicate a lot more now, and including talking to people, including documentation, and I think that's been super helpful. The second part of this is, like, if you're working remotely, then your manager or whoever doesn't really have an option but to trust that you're doing things, right? So, and it gives you this flexibility and this autonomy to actually pick up the task and kind of take it to the end. Darpan asked me, isn't it hard to forge a strong friendship with your coworkers? So it's definitely harder than being in the same room, but I think we do a good job at this by having a lot of video calls, not just for work, but also just to discuss stuff and how things are going. I think that really helps. That being said, our team does get together every few months to go out, to hang out for a while, to kind of gel in. So that definitely helps. Taz is a great guy. Taz asked me, how do you mentor junior devs on things they may not ask up front? Oftentimes in the office, you'll be sitting next to each other to transfer knowledge and techniques. Do you find yourself pairing a lot? To be honest, this is something I don't have an answer for. Again, the idea of keep pushing things early on, like when you have a strategy, you push it, you try to get people's views on it. I think that's the most important thing. So if you spot something is wrong, or if you're not confident yourself, you basically put it out there, and then people will help you out. Kamlesh asked me, Kamlesh, awesome guy, does newsbundle.js. You should check him out. First one, how do you feel about sharing ideas or brainstorming with your colleagues over chat, video versus in person? I think I'm a big fan of asynchronous communication. So you get the time to really think about your idea and jot it down, like articulate your thoughts and then send it to someone. And they can take the time to actually try things, think about it for a while, and then get back to you. Instead of just getting in the room, drawing something on the whiteboard and walking out with a decision. So even though the decision making is slower, but it's definitely more effective. Manjula asked me, how do you keep yourself motivated? Very difficult question. and something that boils down to what excites you about your work and your life, and how much time can you spend doing those things. And as long as you're doing those things, you feel like doing more of them. But the moment you stop, or the moment you have to do things that you don't enjoy, you're going to struggle with motivation. All right, last question, because I don't know how long this episode is now. Mohit asked me, what is the general daily schedule you follow? How do you find a balance between work hours and side projects while working remotely? All right, I hope I don't get into trouble for this, but this is kind of how my schedule goes. I try to wake up early and start working like 8 or 9. I try to get as much done around lunch, like 1 or 2, and that's when I stop. So that's like a good 4 or 5 hours. And then I like go out, do my side projects, hang out with nature or something, and then I come back to my desk at around 8, and then we have like our meeting time and like common discussion time from 8 to like 10 or 11. So like another 3 hours. All right, that's end of the questions. I hope you found value in this. Sorry for the long episode, and we'll be back to our daily scheduled code stuff tomorrow. Oh shit, this is fun.